Welcome back, everyone. I am James Marcuso. It is week 8. This is the Kirkpatrick Signature Series, and in this short video, I hope, I'm going to talk to you about the UN Declaration of Human Rights. In the previous video, I talked about the French and the US documents. They were largely centered around negative rights, things the government couldn't do to you. They focused on maximum personal freedom. The French document focused a little bit on some governmental structures that the U.S. Bill of Rights didn't focus on. But they were very similar. Came out of a very similar spirit. The UN document, on the other hand, is much newer, 150 years younger, is very much out of the Western human rights canon, but much more expansive. You'll see many similarities in the UN document that you saw in the French and American, and I'll read a few of these to you just to give you a flavor. Article 1, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. Article 2, everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration without any distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. Furthermore, no distinction shall be made on the basis of the political, jurisdictional, or international status of the country or territory to which a person belongs, whether it be independent, trust, non-self-governing, or under any other limitation of sovereignty. So we have a very expansive non-discrimination clause at the outset. We want everyone to know this document is for every living human person, regardless of what you are, where you're from, what you think, what you don't think, who you are or are not, or what you do or do not identify as. Everyone. Now, beyond that, we see a lot of same type of stuff. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person, no slavery or servitude, no cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment, equal protection, fair and public hearings by an independent and impartial tribunal, the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. You get the idea. A lot of similarities, and for good reason. And things go along like that. Now, there are some things that are different and important. In a subsequent video, we'll talk about the Thomas Frank article. Thomas Frank points out that the human rights canon, this particular concept of human rights, is not embraced by everyone in the world. You think, well, why wouldn't they? Well, because there are things in here that might disrupt certain cultural behaviors. For example, there are clauses in here that talk about women and their choice in marriage, the age at which someone can get married, whether or not a person chooses to have children or that they can't be forced to have children. And in Western society, by and large, we go, yeah, that's fine, good. But there are places in the world, more traditional places, oftentimes heavily religious, and they have draconian, rather tyrannical views on what a woman's role is in society, specifically that they can and sometimes will force young women, certainly not adults, into marriage and then to procreate without really their consent at all. And so this says, don't do that. And there are cultures around the world that do that. So not the least of which, one of the reasons why not everybody embraces this document, though there are other reasons. Article 22 through 25 are ones that I take particular issue with because I find them to be impractical at the very least. They are, universal Social Security. Everyone has the right to work and protection against unemployment, and everyone will have a basic standard of living with a certain baseline of pay, and your family will be taken care of no matter what, regardless of circumstance, and no place that has ever tried that has been able to do it, not even well. Like it's like the countries, the systems that have attempted those types of policies tended to be almost entirely communist type of regimes. That were very totalitarian, very tyrannical. People suffered greatly, and so even whatever their best intent was with these particular ideas, bad things happened. People wanted out of those places. They suffered terribly. mass starvation, massive death. I'm not saying there's causation here, but there's certainly strong correlation. So Articles 22 through 25, give a look, because those are, at the very least, they're very distinct from what the U.S. and the French documents claim. It's important to remember the UN document is not a binding legal document. The UN is not a government. The UN is an optional association. It has no military. There's no enforcing these ideas. Countries can choose to implement some or all or none of them. It's aspirational. Again, I think many of these are just fine. Great. Some of them I think are bad. Or at least we don't operate in a way that these are practical as humans. That's a big, long, different conversation. So at this stage, I think I've covered what is reasonable to cover. So now you've got the U.S. and the French document over here. You've got the UN document over here. And they have a lot of similarities. The French and U.S. documents are really similar. The UN document definitely goes off in a new direction because it's much newer. And the idea of human rights and universal human rights, were not as novel when this was written. So there you go. Go ahead and read those for yourself. They're really not long, and they're not complicated. And the whole point of the assignment is for you all to see the similarities between the documents. And then I'll talk about the Thomas Frank article in a moment.